This one, the sigh of an angel.
When I first got introduced to the Gregory Horror Show, I thought my friend was being unintentionally very creepy. My friend woke up one morning and was like, "You have to watch this." I watched it after having one of the most uncomfortable conversations I had had in a while with someone. The show felt like it mirrored that. Fast forward a few months later, and I just want to say this show still pisses me off for entirely different reasons. This show just never explains itself, for it is surreal horror. Basically, instead of telling a horror story through the lens of what normal horror would normally use, it just uses symbols to try to confuse you and make you feel unsettled. So I decided to make a YouTube series to try to explain that. Season 4 of the Gregory Horror Show is by far the most uncomfortable out of all the seasons of the show so far. This series of a TV show is very hard to do an analysis on, and season 4 was absolutely no exception. I'm not religious, however, I originally said in my season 3 videos to this series that I thought the Gregory Horror Show was about new revelations, and it definitely is. There's a massive gaping hole in that theory though. The show is clearly written from different perspectives and new revelations, but the whole show is not entirely about new revelations. I'm not sure about how everything connects to itself, because it seems to take place on similar timelines with the other characters, but it just doesn't entirely add up. Nothing about the show seems to entirely add up. Not to mention, the first season of the show is the only season so far that does not primarily focus on being about new revelations. I believe this is because the first season just wanted to introduce the main cast, and that was also the lore for them as well. This season has a different location than the other seasons. It is a hospital with a graveyard and a doctor's office inside a church. That seems like a fancy way of just calling it a mental hospital. The whole theme of this entire season is it's from Catherine's perspective. Catherine being the liquid-inducing, fear-mongering creature that she is. The first episode starts off with Catherine being mad at what I believe is the protagonist from season 2. The protagonist from season 2 was briefly described as looking like Gregory, but with inverted colors. She sits there and sticks her needle inside the protagonist, who became an antagonist after season 2. We hear the voice actor from the Gregory Mouse scream, since both people did become each other in the end. Catherine is symbolic for how fear works, essentially. She steals the vitality from her because Catherine needs to steal people's power in order to feel happy. She's basically very symbolic for how fear works, blood being a sense of vitality in one's own body. If you remember correctly, the Judgment Boys from season 2 said something of relevance. They said that the second season protagonist was 26 years old and had a wonderful boyfriend. Then Judgment Boy Gold says in the end, she is 29 years old, which is probably when she had died. Then that means that there was 3 years she was alive and was in power. 42 months according to New Revelations. The beast from New Revelations, who controls James, who is the mark of the beast itself, is also trying to control the world. The issue with this from season 2 is it seems like New Revelations took place in the past, and if the people weren't alive, maybe it's in the future? Or the events of New Revelations just are happening before us, and this show, because it does a really bad job at explaining itself, is the whole reason. Catherine then gets told by Gregory, the false prophet-like character, that there's a patient looking for her in another room. She says that she is not in the mood. Gregory says that he is a guy, and she immediately becomes a lot more interested and heads right over. Skeletons aren't just metaphors for transformation in the world, they're metaphors for people who are weak and pathetic. They have no muscles or skin, and seeing them need meat is typically how abuse unfolds. Abuse is you wearing someone else's skin around your body like a pelt, and this is to disguise how weak and pathetic you are truly underneath. She then opens a window after realizing that there wasn't any blood to steal, so he withers away after getting a taste of the reality he needed. I believe this whole episode was the entirety of chapter 7 in New Revelations from the New Testament. The chapter describes a brief period of peace while chaos is at a halt. God is giving people a chance to redeem themselves by soiling their white robes with the blood of the Lamb, and the skeleton being blown away does tie into that. Both are surreal stories, and the Gregory Horror Show is a lot more surreal while also being the primary focus of this video. Catherine this season is looking for love. Gregory then ends the episode by saying, if there's someone for anyone, then there has to be someone for her.
Case 2. Swept away.
In the second episode, we get to see the generational suffering dogs. He's being treated by a Dr. Fritz that looks like Frankenstein's monster. He has a mad scientist-like appearance, but also a kind voice. Him being Frankenstein looking is also quite interesting. It reminds me of how Dr. Frankenstein was the real monster in Frankenstein's monster novel. What he did was unethical. What this character did to himself and his patients isn't any different. Dr. Fritz is basically an enabler. He may sound sweet and kind, but he is indirectly responsible for Catherine's behavior by choosing to do nothing about it. You are who you hang out with. The traumatized dog is reading no pulse on the EKG heart monitor. The doctor cannot find any pulse anywhere. The dog is complaining about how his head hurts and how he feels sick while not being able to find where it is coming from in his body. Just like how generational trauma essentially works. Catherine wants to take blood from someone. The dog asks if he has a cold, and the doctor says we are past that. She mentions she's going to take his blood, and the doctor says, well, we're still past that. He is beyond being able to take blood, so Catherine starts to turn on the doctor. Gregory walks in reading a book called Judgment Day with an E instead of an A. Days are a reference to the Ottoman Empire from Turkey. The plot of New Revelations takes place in Turkey, along with the 7 churches of Asia that were referenced throughout the book. Him reading the book is symbolic for him trying to convince Catherine into taking his blood. The doctor has his blood sucked from a needle by Catherine and goes unconscious. The doctor then gets buried by presumably Catherine in the graveyard by the hospital with the rest of Catherine's patients. He gets up from the grave and he starts stomping on the Judgment Day book on the ground. He starts yelling, "Angel in white, she is no angel." The episode is literally a reference to chapter 8 in New Revelations. The whole theme of this chapter is suffering on all levels. God wants to torment people, but he doesn't want people to fully die either. God sends the first 4 of the trumpets from the 7 angels onto the rest of humanity as a punishment for their chaos. The reason the dog doesn't have a heartbeat is because he isn't dead, but the character is lacking compassion. It is described that they have lost their ways and all hope they had once had, lack of hope being a major theme of this chapter.
Case 3. A maiden's hangnail.
In the third episode, the brother Cactus Gunman goes to the hospital to be treated by Catherine. Catherine saves him and they start to fall in love with each other again. He is still running away from the law in order to avoid trouble as mentioned in previous seasons. A cut sequence of them being in love. He starts to get better. She starts to experience depression on a stormy night, and he gets mad at the fact he will eventually have to leave. So she makes him sick again and locks him to his bed. Murchison's by proxy is a disease where you need a interpersonal project in this world just to feel happy, even if it means you're the one who had created it. These people will target defenseless people and make them very unwell just to feel happy. It's a serious disease that's rather unheard of. Chapter 9 in New Revelations was about spiritual harm and how poor morality can lead to punishment from God. The whole chapter focuses on humans being unable to change ways, only to be tortured by the remaining angels and the locust god cast onto the earth. Cactus Gunman revealed he is trying to escape the law, only to get hurt and then semi-saved by Catherine. Catherine hurts him anyways, and he cannot leave, for she has him chained in. I think this is symbolic for how humans lost their ways, and are trying to get nurtured back when they don't actually want that. New Revelations is about how too much progress can lead to nepotism and then chaos. Nobody needs to nurture those who, unfortunately, don't want help.
Case 4. The Value of a Shine.
In episode 4, Gregory starts reading a book called A Loveday's Diary. We see Catherine having framed, presumably love interest of hers. I also noticed in the sequence that Gregory's IV that he has in this episode looks like it is dripping honey into his system, implying that he is probably injured. The reason why he is reading Catherine's diary is because he wants her to do something. Loveday's diary being Catherine's diary. He's reading about someone who's really lovely, who has a shiny glow to them. Catherine walks in and is upset with Gregory for reading out loud her diary. We see Golden Judgment Boy being tied down in a bed not far from them. The Golden Judgment Boy is about to be tortured by Catherine, it appears. Gregory complains about how bright he looks while also being an old water rat that he is. Catherine gets mad at Gregory for sneaking in on her and asks him to leave. Golden Judgment Boy says that his gold shine is so attractive that he has learned to deal with people like her. Gregory slips and triggers a torture trap. The Golden Judgment Boy is about to be pulled apart by a machine. He starts talking about how he's only gold-plated, which is in perspective to New Revelations. In the end, the Golden Judgment Boy gets torn apart and is buried in the graveyard. He has gold dust on his gravestone. The Lion of Judah, or the Messiah, as talked about consistently in New Revelations, is a symbol of victory at a dire cost of a defeat. When John of New Revelations was asked to seek out the Messiah, all he saw was a sheep that was a reference to something from previous seasons. Victory is best achieved when nobody has truly lost anything. Every single time you destroy parts of the world, you destroy parts of yourself in the process. The only people who win conflicts are those who use their power the least. That is the symbolic meaning of the Lion of Judah and the Lamb. Catherine then wears the Golden Judgment Boy 10-ball earrings around her ears. Earrings represent listening to the world around you, and she heard what she wanted to hear about the Messiah's message. Chapter 10 is about truth and preparation for the final victory of New Revelations. An angel hands John, the prophet, a scroll and tells him to eat it. The scroll tastes good, but it upsets his stomach. Eating things in dreams typically represents things that are hard to understand emotionally. The fact that it upset his stomach was in good faith, but it is difficult to take in.
Case 5. Goodbye, my love.
In episode 5, we see Hell's chef cut up bones with his knife. He is cooking the bones and the marrow. Bone marrow represents the core of one's own sense of identity. Seeing him chop it up and cook it means he's fighting people against each other for his own personal power trip. Catherine is in love watching him cook, so she decides to cook him a meal. He receives the meal back, and before you know it, she receives a meal with a note on it saying, "It was great." This starts a cook-off where they are trying to both send notes to each other with the meals that they are sending. She then comes across Hell's chef in person. He beats her to the ground violently and says, "I don't need to eat anyone else's food." As she is sitting there trying to understand why he is like this, she then takes her needle and destroys the Hell's chef with it. Gregory walks in, and as it turns out, she was passing food off to Gregory and he was pretending to be Hell's chef. She gets angry and turns against Gregory and hangs him by a tail as a display. Dangling a rat to a tree is her displaying his defeat very publicly, or him being a martyr. The episode ends with Gregory being mobbed by crows. Crows are symbolic for messages from other people in regards to his defeat. Chapter 11 in New Revelations was about a conflict between God's witnesses and two dictators. In the story, God kills the two dictators, but it is a very half-hearted victory. Gregory and the Hell's chef are the evil leaders. The crows are the people in the book who are in celebration that they are dead while looking at the dead bodies. Catherine is serving her purpose by wiping the world of those authoritarians. Ultimately, it is part of a much larger plan to strip the world of everyone who is in it.
Case 6. The Tale of a Traitor.
In episode 6, the Dr. Fritz, that is Frankenstein's monster, was digging graves for Catherine when he trips over one of the loyal samurai stalkers from the other season. The samurai freaks out and tells him that he will do whatever he wants. At first, the doctor doesn't know what to do, but then tells the samurai something. He apparently ordered the samurai to end Catherine, but he forgot one thing. Skeletons are weak and pathetic creatures. This samurai is no exception. Samurais are also symbolic for fierce and devoted loyalty. We see crows flying away from the scene like the messengers that they are. It transitions into the samurai trying to end the life of Dr. Frankenstein's monster. The samurai then says Catherine is his princess after he just changed his mind about Catherine and tries to end his own life. The samurai misses the doctor and hits the poster above the doctor's desk. The poster has a peephole for one of the dogs is trying to witness the whole thing. The dog gets stabbed in the head by the samurai warrior and takes it like a champ. Then Catherine walks in and ends the samurai warrior. She then sucks the vitality out of the doctor and Gregory walks by. Gregory gets grossed out and obviously walks away. I believe that this is a reference to chapter 12, where a woman had given birth to a baby that was symbolic for Jesus. The baby was going to be eaten by Satan the moment the child was born. A war breaks out and angels are deceiving each other on behalf of Satan. Eventually, Satan has to go away because the earth protected the woman who was going to give birth to the child. In a fit of rage, Satan kills the other children of the woman who's now under the protection of the earth. This story was about non-stop conflict, and it was mentioned that they're deceived by angels in the League of Satan. Catherine, being the unfaithful snake that she is, the dog, I believe, was obviously a witness, which is a heavy theme of this passage. The whole theme of New Revelations is about being a witness to God, and that is what that is.
Case 7. Future Tense.
In episode 7, we see the fortune frog predicting Catherine's future. Catherine wants to know more information since the frog predicted that Catherine was going to get flowers from someone. Catherine asks for what kind of flower, and it gets revealed after Catherine coughs up more money that she's going to get flowers that are red roses. Red roses are symbolic for falling in love, hence why you can buy carnations in high school. Catherine walks away romantically and excited. The frog says that the future is ever changing and disappears. Catherine realizes that he is a patient and starts geeking out over him. He works for a marketing agency and has gastroenteritis. Gastroenteritis is a gut infection, essentially. When you eat something in dreams, it means you're trying to understand something emotional. Seeing your gut be infected means that you're having issues processing how you feel, like you feel motionless and numb. The marketing agency part and everything else is basically symbolic for Steve Hanawa from the previous seasons. This will become more relevant later on. She gets sneaked up accidentally by Dr. Frankenstein's Dr. Fritz. She thought that he was the love interest and she decides to suck his blood straight from him. He goes unconscious and she makes him better by helping him heal. The future changed because Gregory scared away a potential love interest of Catherine that wouldn't have honestly worked out anyways. The unknown person didn't need to be tormented more than he already was, clearly. Gregory scares him away and he grabs the flowers from the guy as he is running. I'm gonna be honest, guys. Gregory really needs to learn how to have better taste in women. Like, how the heck does this keep happening? And yet he thinks this is a good idea. He then gets his blood drained from him, and the frog predicts that his life gets turned upside down. It does, but in a very public, showy way by his tail. He gets mobbed by the crows, yet again in his defeat. Keep in mind, Gregory's also a martyr. So the crows mobbing him are him intentionally being a martyr. Chapter 13 is by far the most important part of New Revelations. It is the part where the Mark of the Beast gets introduced and important information that is super relevant for New Revelations. Basically, Gregory gained control over the Mark of the Beast and is forcing everyone to wear the Mark of the Beast or get beheaded. You cannot sell or buy goods if you don't have the Mark of the Beast. He is lying to people to get them to worship him instead of God according to New Revelations. Unfortunately, this episode doesn't entirely add up though. Despite this being clearly about the Mark of the Beast, we don't really encounter that until later this season. I believe that they try to draw out Chapter 13 as much as possible. So, to give you an idea of how much I've been geeking out trying to figure out how to make my videos look good, I've probably spent like 50 or 60 hours on scripting and just trying to make this video look good over the past 2 months. It's a very long and tedious process that I don't even fully know if it's going to work in the end. If you like this, you can like or subscribe the video. If you don't like this, my fluffy ears are open. I need feedback, so I'm all ears. Thank you for watching and see you in the next part 2 of the video.